suicide bomb blast at Kabul Airport. Casualties are unclear at this time. Pentagon says following explosion which came hours after warning of imminent IS attack targeting evacuation operation. The Pentagon has confirmed a huge explosion and gunfire at the Abbey gate of Kabul Airport. Armed Forces Minister James Heappey said there was credible reporting of a severe attack within hours. The US, UK, and Australia told their citizens to flee the airport amid the fears of an attack by ISIS. The ISIS splinter group is a sworn enemy of the Taliban, and officials fear they want to cause mayhem. Thousands of foreigners and Afghans are desperately trying to flee amid warning some will be left behind. A suicide bomb has caused a huge explosion outside Kabul Airport with unknown casualties just hours after warnings of an imminent and lethal ISIS terrorist attack. Afghans desperately trying to flee from the Taliban. President Joe Biden has been briefed on the attack, which ripped through a crowd gathered at the Abbey gate of the Hamid Karzai, where there were also reports of gunfire amid the mass panic. Images from the scene show scores of bloodied people being carried away from the bomb site, with witnesses saying they saw so many hurt. An Afghan man queuing to enter the airport said the explosion took place in the middle of the crowd of thousands of people, and he saw many injured and maimed people and was told of multiple fatalities. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said, "We can confirm an explosion outside Kabul Airport. Casualties are unclear at this time. We will provide additional details when we can." Tory MP Nasgani said she was on the phone to somebody outside Kabul Airport when the explosion happened, tweeting, "Explosion at Kabul Airport. I was on the phone to an Afghan outside the airport when he heard the explosion, praying that he gets away safely, and we get his family safe passage out of this nightmare." Meanwhile, Conservative MP Alicia Kearns, a member of the Foreign Affairs and National Security Strategy Committees, said a bomb or attack with gunfire at northern gate of Barron's Hotel. "Worried this will devastate evacuation, so many hurt. My heart is with all those injured and killed." Earlier, gunfire to disperse the thronging crowds at the airport was initially thought to have targeted a plane transporting 100 civilians to safety. A source from Italy's defense ministry had said shots were fired at the Italian C-130 plane minutes after takeoff, but it was not damaged. But intelligence reports now claim the gunfire was to disperse crowds gathered at the airport and was not directed at the departing plane amid the panic and heightened fears of an imminent terror attack. An Italian journalist told Sky TG24 that she had been aboard the plane along with 98 Afghan civilians when it appeared to be targeted by machine gun fire. The pilot reacted promptly and implemented maneuvers to avoid being hit within minutes of taking off from Kabul. "There was a bit of panic," said the journalist. Earlier, Armed Forces Minister James Heappey said there was very credible reporting of a severe attack which could happen within hours by ISIS, the sworn enemy of the Taliban who want to cause mayhem in the new regime. The US, Britain, and Australia had already told their citizens to flee the airport over the terror threat, with Western forces still stationed at the transport hub, with a multiple car bomb attack feared by officials. The fears are heaping extra pressure on the operation to evacuate stranded foreigners, with Tuesday's deadline for foreign troops to leave fast approaching. Meanwhile, Afghans who had been told to stay away from Kabul Airport are instead flocking to Pakistan and Iran in a bid to escape after the UK told them to head to the border, while many countries have announced they are ending their airlift operations from today. Heappey told the BBC Radio 4's Today program, "There's now very credible reporting of an imminent attack. It's an extraordinarily challenging situation both on the ground and is a set of decisions to be taken here in Whitehall because people are desperate. People are fearing for their lives anyway. And so I think there is an appetite by many in the queue to take their chances. But the reporting of this threat is very credible indeed, and there is a real imminence to it. I can only say the threat is severe." He added, "I can't stress the desperation of the situation enough. The threat is credible, it is imminent, it is lethal. And we wouldn't be saying this if we weren't genuinely concerned about offering Islamic State a target." Meanwhile, Colonel Richard Kemp, former head of British forces in Afghanistan, said a terror attack could be carried out by any of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or the Taliban. He told BBC Breakfast that threat of terrorist attack, whether it's from Taliban, the Islamic State, or Al-Qaeda, it could equally be all three of those groups. The fact that people are talking about Islamic State doesn't make that the most likely threat. I think that threat has existed right the way from when this evacuation began, and I have no doubt that our forces are fully aware of the threat and already, for days now, have been taking measures to try and mitigate it to prevent something like that happening. But, clearly, there could be a terrorist attack of some sort against the forces in the airport. may be forces outside the airport. And of course the people trying to get in. America, Britain and Australia all told their citizens in the early hours of Thursday to immediately leave the area over fears of a deadly blast from jihadists. But a Western diplomat in Kabul said areas outside the airport gates were incredibly crowded again despite the warnings. U.S. officials said last night there was a very real risk of an attack by the terror group who are the Taliban's rivals, due to threats outside the Kabul airport. U.S. citizens should avoid traveling to the airport and avoid airport gates unless you receive instructions to do so. The U.S. State Department tweeted on Wednesday night, "Those at the Abbey Gate, East Gate, or North Gate now should leave immediately." The order to leave the gates was issued at 3:30 am local time in Kabul on Thursday morning. Planes departing from the U.S. have been departing every 39 minutes in the rush to evacuate as many citizens as possible before the August 31 deadline. In total, around 88,000 people have been airlifted from Kabul airport since evacuation efforts began, the Pentagon said on Wednesday, but up to 1,500 Americans and 400 Britons still remain on the ground. Already, military cargo planes leaving Kabul airport have launched flares to disrupt any potential surface-to-air missile fire as fleeing Afghan troops abandoned heavy weapons and equipment across the country in their collapse following America's withdrawal of troops. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson today stressed that August 31 would not mark the end of the UK commitment to helping those who wish to flee Afghanistan. Johnson told broadcasters that although the lion's share of eligible people had now been removed from the country, he recognized there will be people who still need help. Asked whether this would be challenging amid reports of the Taliban blocking the roads, Mr. Johnson said, "What we're hoping, and this is the key point that the G7 agreed, is that the Taliban understand that if they want to engage with development aid, they want to unlock those billions of funds, they want to have a diplomatic, political relationship with the outside world, then the safe passage for those who want to come out is the key precondition." Some countries have begun to even pull their soldiers and diplomats out, fearing potential attacks and likely signaling the beginning of the end of one of history's largest airlifts. French Prime Minister Jean Castex told French radio RTL on that from tomorrow evening onwards, "We are not able to evacuate people from the Kabul airport due to the upcoming American withdrawal." A source close to the government added that the date had been imposed on France by the plan of the United States, which is providing security at the airport, to pull out by August 31. The source added that France would do everything to keep its operation in place for as many more hours as it can, saying that the evacuation of civilians would wind up several hours before the formal end of the mission when military and remaining embassy services would leave. The French Foreign Ministry has indicated that the final evacuations of civilians from Kabul by France would be late on Thursday or Friday morning. Meanwhile, Danish Defense Minister Trine Bramsen bluntly warned, it is no longer safe to fly in or out of Kabul. Denmark's last flight, carrying 90 people plus soldiers and diplomats, already had left Kabul, and the Dutch government said it would stop evacuation flights from Kabul today in what it acknowledged was a painful moment that would leave some people behind. Already, Poland and Belgium have ended their evacuations from Afghanistan. The Islamic State affiliate in Afghanistan grew out of disaffected Taliban members who hold an even more extreme view of Islam, riding on a wave when the militants seized territory across Iraq and Syria, naming themselves after Khorasan, a historic name for the greater region. The extremists embarked on a series of brutal attacks that included a 2020 assault on a maternity hospital in Kabul that saw infants and women killed. The Taliban have fought against Islamic State militants in Afghanistan. However, their advance across the country likely saw IS fighters freed alongside the Taliban's own